Hello, everyone. Welcome to Finstruction Podcast. Here I, Akriti Bajaj, as your host, will take you through the product building journey from the lens of product managers.
Today, we have the very famous PM influencer Khanjan Desai. She's super active in PM space with her case studies on YouTube, and she's started recently decoding PM jargons on Instagram. She's currently working as a senior product manager at PayPal and actually started her journey post MBA in fintech space itself with Razorpay.
Hi Akriti.
Hi Khanjan, how are you?
Good, good. How are you? Finally.
I know. Should we get started then?
Yeah. Let's
Great,
start.
great. So I think like today's topic is neobank, and in terms of India specifically, what we've seen over the course of years is that they are majorly physical financial institutions, which were in fact being led by just top four, top five in terms of the overall business. But with this digital advent, we are seeing contactless payments, wallets, and finally this new term called neobank. So just wanted to understand like what do you understand by a neobank, and if you could actually differentiate how is it, B2B versus a B2C case.
Yeah. So banking, especially in India, but also in the world, has been a very conventional offline kind of a process where
Yeah.
people are accustomed to go to the branch, have a person in front of them, and then trust them with their money. And now, when we think of an individual customer versus a business has firstly the volume of transactions is high, it's very frequent.
Yeah.
They have to also appoint a person who can, in earlier times, who used to conduct or who used to carry these processes offline, right? So that person had to be trusted. And there were a lot of accounting and books mishaps that used to happen. Some of the biggest scams have happened because of an offline process, right? So this is where a major gap was observed, and which is where the concept of neobanking came into place, which is essentially end to end online banking. So, right from the discovery stage of identifying the account and the processes that one has to go through for the onboarding, to the KYC verification, to the firstly, I mean, the sign up process, and then finally operation of the account, right? So,
Yeah.
neobanking in very simple terms and also in like specific terms is basically doing your entire end-to-end banking, irrespective of whether you're an individual or a business, on an online ecosystem. And everything that you need to do, either it will happen on the platform itself or it could be done with a hybrid model, but you don't essentially have to visit a branch. Right now, how does this differ across a B2B and a B2C spaces? Essentially, as I said, for a B2B use case, this is a much more useful process because for a B2C use case, we already have net banking and wallets and
True.
everything, right? But
Yeah.
so one might argue that, hey, we already have these things for a normal user. So what's the neo banking space really adding on to it? That's actually true in a partial sense. But of course, there are two types of accounts in any bank, right? So there's a current account and then there's a savings
Savings.
account.
Yeah.
Now, there are certain nuances attached to a savings account, or rather, there are certain limitations with a savings account. And current account offers much more liquidity and flexibility in terms of carrying out transactions and having your accountability in place. And this is where essentially neobanks work with. So they offer a current account to the businesses where, there's easy onboarding, there is a lot of support, there are a lot of product features in addition to a conventional current account. And then there is a class apart support. Right. So this is where when I was at Razorpay X, this is the essential offering that Razorpay X has. And this was in principle just for businesses. But what happens is that there are some businesses which are like one or two founder led businesses, right?
True.
So
Yeah.
in that case, it also sort of touches upon the B2C aspects because you're essentially just working for one consumer or one customer.
Got it.
So this
Got it.
is in a nutshell about the neobanking and the B2B versus B2C space.
Got it. Got it. You just mentioned, Razorpay X, and this is my next question. Why did Razorpay actually get into this space? Did you speak to a lot of merchants? They were facing some issues, and this idea clicked. Like, how was the strategy behind this?
Yeah. So Razorpay grew because of the payment gateway
Yeah.
product that they had, which is the conventional Razorpay product. Now, what happened is that all of the merchants who were coming on Razorpay payment gateway to do business, of course, they had a cash inflow through the payment gateway, but they also had to make a lot of payments and disbursals to their vendors, to their customers, to their employees,
Yeah.
multiple use cases of payouts. So there was no such product which was dedicated to making payouts with the certain business journeys in mind, right? So, for example, there
Understood.
is a business journey where a founder has to make disbursals to 2, 3 vendors, and then the other finance operations person has to just make sure that they have went through and or just obtain some approvals from the founder, right? So then there's an approval matrix that has to be put in place. So there are so many specific journey points in a business's payout cycle which were not addressed by anybody right at that point.
Yeah. Yeah.
And since Razorpay already had this uh had acquired a huge set of merchants for their payment gateway
Okay.
processes, now it had to just launch another product which sort of is like the there's a supply side and then there's the demand side, right? So they wanted to
Understood.
capture on that entire life cycle of a finance journey of a business.
Got it. Got it. So the target persona was basically touching the merchants who were already on the payment gateway, or did you try to acquire the, long tail MSME which India has? Because I think those merchants are very different from the ones who would have a payment gateway, especially in terms of them being technical. They are not so technology savvy. And then there are different languages also in India, which we need to cater on whenever we are building a pan India product.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say that target persona was A or B. It
Mm.
was basically, of course, by the nature of the existing merchants that Razorpay already had, right? So by just the default nature of it, of course, majority of merchants who then came back to Razorpay X were from payment gateway source initially.
Okay.
But then 1 year down the line, once it was like a full-fledged offering, we had a lot of new signups which were exclusive for Razorpay X as well. And where this really, so I'll tell you, right? So payment gateway, there are multiple competitors, and payment gateway as a product, as a financial product, is a mature product. In fact,
Agreed.
Razorpay was also not the first mover in it, right? So
Exactly.
avenues, etc. So
Yeah.
a lot of merchants or long tail MSMEs already might have had multiple payment gateways linked to them, or they might be using different things. But Razorpay X was like it was like a disruptive product, especially at this scale and the way the solution was offered in India, right? So it was one of the first movers, and hence we also witnessed a lot of new, fresh acquisitions exclusive to Razorpay X as well.
Got it. Got it. Understood. And in terms of, when you were launching Razorpay X, which features did you prioritize? And did you speak to merchants in terms of getting them validated? Because I think in terms of consumers, you can always launch, like do a beta launch, try to get them sign up. But here, merchants might need some hand holding. So just wanted to understand like how the launch was planned in terms of features as well as, testing and validating it with merchants.
Right. So when I joined, it was already launched. When I say the website was already in place.
Okay.
We had close to 2,000 merchants on it. But where I worked was essentially launching or rather conceptualizing the mobile app for it, which was non-existent. So for that, of course, yes, we used to follow a rigorous research process in Razorpay where we used to study the clickstream data of the existing merchants. We had done a benchmarking exercise of all the competitors to see what are their features and what is their NPS rating, or how do the customers really use their products, and what is their success rate. Because in finance ecosystem or in any fintech, your product can be anything, your features can be anything, but if your success rate is not up to the mark, or if
Yeah.
let's say ATM is offering 90% of successful transactions, hypothetically,
Yeah.
versus, PayU is offering a 95. Any merchant would prefer going to 95 because
True.
the cost of failed transactions is super high and nobody has the time and bandwidth to reach out to support at all times. Which brings me to my next point, which is support is essential and paramount, right? So
Got
these were the findings we got when we were doing research for the mobile app. And of course, because we were looking at a multi screen expansion, so website is a use case which is specifically for the conventional business people who are sitting at their homes and who are carrying out daily transactions. We also had API integrations in place. So
Okay.
there might be cases where the merchants never even visited the website ever, and it was just an API integration and their businesses were going on through Razorpay X. So then for me as a product manager, the challenge was that if they never even interact with a product, essentially the product they are using is the API and not really the website or the app. Right.
Yeah.
So then I had to sort of do like this segmentation and I had to study the patterns of both of these merchants. We specifically picked up the target persona from the ones who were using the website at any point. We studied the clickstream data. We studied what events they fire the most. We studied the roles that these personas, so these businesses have. For
Yeah.
example, if it's a small business with 2 to 5 people, then we offered different roles. So there was an owner role, there's an admin role, operations, finance, L1, L2, L3, right? So I studied what are the roles from which size of businesses which come, and then what
Understood.
events do they trigger the most on the website. And then
Okay.
depending on this, then I did like a specific one-on-one call type of a survey to assess and to really, ask what do you exactly need as a priority. Because see, when you talk to merchants,
Yeah.
um, they will ask you for everything because they feel that
Exactly.
you are like this service as a, they still look at product companies as a SaaS company. So they feel that it's like your, IBMs or your system integrators where whatever they say, you're going to just make
Solve
it.
for
But
it. Yeah.
yeah, so that's still the mentality. At least it was till the last year. And so the challenge is for you as a product manager to then sit back and try to validate the ask from the merchant's mouths with the actual usage they are having and with the visionary input on what is going to be, let's say, 2 years down the line, the requirement, right? So then
Understood.
depending on that, we figured out that there were three major use cases. One was, of course, doing the payouts on the go, right? So mobile was definitely a required medium for them. Firstly, I had to validate that, right? Because
Yeah.
otherwise the app is less. And we also had a mobile browser website, but which was not optimized. So I also studied what all are they doing from the mobile browser. And so anything that they do from mobile browser, obviously they would love to have it on a mobile app, right? In an
True.
optimized manner. And then the second use case was making approvals for their teams. And then the third use case was essentially just being able to check your balance and, get notified if any transaction goes out. Because one particular founder or one particular business owner has to answer multiple vendors and multiple
Yeah.
employees that when will the salary get credited to them or when will the payment get credited to them, right? So these were the
True.
three main features that we identified as the MVP features.
Got it. Got it. Understood. And I think just in terms of, since I am also in that B2B space, did you ever face with the merchants, they are not interested in talking is as well, because that's a waste of time from their end because they never know these things are going to be implemented or not. So I think,
Yeah, so
yeah,
yes, I think more than not being interested, they always used to miss. Of course, the ones who were aware of product management as a field, and they were aware, they were very well, established themselves, were very cooperative. But
yeah,
as you said, most of the merchants they don't have time. They are so tight on time, and they are
exactly.
struggling to their business run that they really don't care, right? So what used to happen is they used to think of me as a customer support executive and they used to share all their open tickets and problems. And so at that point, I think what is important is if you are a true product manager, if you really have, you've studied theoretically, you empathize this, that's where your empathy has to come in play. So I used to first make sure that I listen to their complaints, I log their ticket number, and I had developed a relationship with some of my merchants who I also gave the liberty to call me when, their support ticket is not going through. Because that is the kind of relationship building, I think, in B2B space that you do with your customers. And if you do that, then the kind of insights that I got from them, the kind of cooperation that I got from them, they even agreed to be on my beta launch list. They even agreed to do a prototype testing for us. So we
Wow.
recorded their entire use case and sorry, the user journey and
Journey.
user
Yeah.
acceptance testing was done, right? So it is a challenge, yes. They do mistake you for support executives, which is nothing wrong. But of course, you don't have the bandwidth to really solve their support issues, but you can always go back to the right people and link them. So I used to do that a lot. And then third is that once you cross that threshold or barrier with them, then I think they are very, if they know you are going to give them value, you have to listen to what they are actually saying. You have to go get back to them, follow up with them. If you're not building the feature they've asked for, then just a small message or a small email that, sorry sir, we are not doing this, or sorry ma'am, we don't think
Yeah.
this can be picked up right now, also goes a long way. And I do also understand that this could be possible for me at RazorPayX at that point. Maybe today the people who are there, the scale might be too large,
Yeah.
but I think, some parts of it can definitely be continued.
But this is a very fresh perspective, even going back to the merchant and telling them that, sorry, we are not implementing this feature for now, but we've taken your feedback. I think this is
Yeah.
a very valid point because I don't think a lot of people would do that. Like, I think it's more, people make it like transactional. We've got the
Yes.
feedback. Let's see if we can use it anywhere. But that is where the conversation ends. So I think this is like super insightful from that perspective. The other question I had was, so once, you'd launch the mobile app with these features, what were some of the indicators or metrics you looked in terms of the success? And I understand, generally these metrics are also, some are very instant in nature. You can track them there and then, and some are like lagging indicators, which you would track after 3 or let's say 6 months, and then they will actually tell you the story.
Yeah. So this was the biggest challenge for us because, see, website had its own metrics, and we had acquisition metrics, we had retention metrics, we had a North Star that we used to follow, which was essentially number of transactions made in a month by a merchant, right? So that was our
Okay.
North Star at that point. And so the question was that for a mobile app where anyway the target audience is not that big, so we did not want to launch it to everybody. We wanted to launch it to specific size of businesses, specific persona, which was essentially a business owner persona, at least in the beta phase. Now it's publicly available, or rather generally available. So at that point, the metric then, if we say that okay, we are going to look at how many first thing that we obviously had to look at was the adoption, which was like a leading metric, right? So how many people are actually the ones who are offered the app, how many are actually coming onto it and doing the first step of just logging in and then placing their first maybe transaction or payout or approval, right?
Okay.
The second one was the daily active usage, because at that point, if the daily active usage was in place for the app, right, then we at least had the validity of hypothesis that the mobile usage is needed for for something like RazorPayX, because
Got it.
businesses they don't conventionally use their mobile for these things, and there were also certain feedback given to us about the trust issues, right, on a mobile device. and
Yeah.
and some founders were conventional and they were like, no, 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 I can't use my phone at all for these things, fraud ho jayega, this that, right? So
Yeah.
so just to check if that barrier has been crossed and if that adoption is there or not is where we looked at the active usage. So those were the basic two leading metrics. In terms of the lagging metrics, definitely we wanted to look at the overall usage or overall transactions of those merchants go up, right? So
Okay.
if has the mobile app helped them do more business with Razorpay? Has the mobile app helped them with a better, let's say, visibility of their account? So NPS was our metric, which was like to measure the happiness of our customers.
Customer. Yeah.
So NPS for those people who are those listeners who don't know is the Net Promoter Score. So this is a survey that a lot of financial institutions do. And so I had made like an NPS survey for the customers, both for mobile app and non-mobile app, to just check overall if the mobile app is help. Because see, mobile app was like a delight offering at that point, right? It was not like a must have. Of course, it was a must have in certain aspects for some people, but not for
Yeah,
the entire subset. So, and this we are talking about October 2020. Yeah, we're talking about October 2020, right? So it's way
okay.
back now that
Yeah,
we think of it. So at that point, so we just wanted to see one, whether this is helping in overall enhancing business of the merchants with us
yeah.
in the, let's say, the 6 months of post launch. And second was we wanted to check if their customer satisfaction, their the happiness index is going up or not.
Understood, understood. And in terms of, tracking the metrics, did you also see, like, let's say for a merchant who's now using the mobile app, they might have stopped using the website altogether. Did you come look at these kind of insights as well? Because at the end of the day, these products are similar. It's just that some merchants might prefer one over the other, or some might want to use it together.
Yeah. So we did not, at least at that time, because it was not, so it was a very small subset of the overall offerings of the
Okay.
Pay as an account. So we couldn't do that. But yes, we definitely looked at the delta of, let's say, if they spend 20 hours in a week,
Yeah,
what is the delta that they spend on a mobile app versus on the website, and whether that overall delta has increased post launch of the mobile app, right?
understood,
So,
understood. Got it, got it. I think I have most of the questions in terms of building this neobank. Thank you so much. I think as we end this, just wanted to hear one piece of advice from you for product builders.
sure. Thanks, firstly. These were really great questions. I hope people understood what we were talking about, right?
Yeah,
But so I think I won't say advice. I would say we are still starting out, but I'd say what I have learned so far is that if you are building anything, right? It could be like a neo banking app, or it could be anything in finance. Understanding the journeys of your customers, right? And why it's more important in the finance or the fintech companies is because they are very specific and they're very nuanced, and the risk of a bad product in this space is too high. So you could make a shitty shopping website, and that's okay, like people might move on to the next website. But here there's
true.
money involved, there's literally business involved, there's everything that the person owns. And so the kind of disgruntled complaints that I have witnessed, and the kind of damage that a bad
Customer
mishap could
experiences.
cause
Yeah,
yeah, to the customers is very high. So one has to understand the responsibilities that the product has on the customers' lives, and then always try to think of that first, and then what do you think is a good solution. So if you take that lens, um you might have like a basic product, but at least it is robust, at least it is supportive to the customers businesses, and it's doing the job securely. So that would be one piece of advice. But yeah, I'm sure you'll have many other people come here, and you'll have a great lineup of multiple advices that people would give.
no, no, definitely. I think this is great. I think, like, as you mentioned, and that's what we keep hearing from everyone, keep your customer first, try to solve their problems. Rest, UI, UX, making it more sophisticated, beautiful. I think that's something like a second priority and can always be done later. But solving the problem and hitting that right is the most important thing.
Yes, truly.
Thank you so much, Khanjan. This was super great, and I hope people will definitely, get some value out of it and try to make even better products after this conversation.
Thanks, Akriti, for doing this, taking this initiative. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.